Welcome into the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Putters, and you're to my left, right, where he is on your screen. My partner Joe Nicely, and this is the Sunday Stroll edition. We're going to talk a little NFL with you. Week 10 is almost in the books. Minnesota as we are recording. Minnesota leads the Bears 7-3 with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. You'll probably hear this show on Thursday or Friday. So, but we're still going to talk about Week 10 and hit a little bit on Week 11. A lot of strange things in the NFL happened this week, Joe. A lot of strange things. I'm going to go ahead and do the rundown. We'll hit on some things. Number one strange thing, Indianapolis Colts destroyed the Tennessee Titans in the second half, end up winning 34-17. Cleveland Browns on a very interesting finish, beat the Houston Texans 10-7. Detroit almost lost their coach this week, held on to win 30-27. Green Bay Packers come back and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20. New York Giants surprised the Eagles 27-17. Tampa Bay got on fire, beat the Carolina Panthers 46-23. Las Vegas wins over Denver 37-12. Miami Dolphins beat the LA Chargers 29-21. Arizona Cardinals beat the Buffalo Bills 32-30. Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks 23-16. Might have exposed some things in Seattle. New Orleans Saints in a costly victory beat the San Francisco 49ers 27-13. Pittsburgh Steelers handled the Cincinnati Bengals 36-10. New England Patriots figure out Lamar Jackson. The Baltimore Ravens win 23-17. Like I said, Minnesota leads Chicago 7-3 in the second quarter. 2-minute warning. So there you go, Joe. That was the rundown. I want to start off with the Cleveland Browns Houston Texans ending 10-7, fourth quarter, minute and a half to go. No way that Cleveland covers the 4-point spread. Handed off up the middle to Nick Chubb. He busts off 70 yards to get to the 3-yard line and run out of bounds. Then quarterback comes out there, downs it twice, ball game. Wow.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one to be on the wrong side of.
Or a good one to be on the right side, Joe.
Exactly.
A good one to be on the right side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you had Nick Chubb in either your season-long league or DraftKings, you're pretty sick. If you were playing against Nick Chubb, you're feeling like you dodged the ultimate bullet. So yeah, man, just a crazy sicko play the type that we've seen from time to time. Almost the bigger takeaway for me there, which obviously the Chubb's huge if you had any involvement with him, but the win, man, that's the second game in Cleveland we've seen this year, which it was forecasted, but kind of the normally reliable Houston Texans offense wasn't able to get it going. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to that win up there in Cleveland. That's the second game we've seen this year. I think they played the Raiders a few weeks ago, and similarly low-scoring game. So it's certainly something worth keeping an eye on if you're playing DFS. I got off that game. Duke Johnson was a popular play. I really did like Brandon Cooks, but ended up pivoting away at the end because of the wind. So I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. We also saw some up in Green Bay, which kind of threw that game for a loop. It was a lot closer than a lot of people thought it would be. But I think the wind is perhaps the most important weather factor that we have to look for in NFL.
Yeah, I've always heard there's 3 places that a quarterback really doesn't want to play: Cleveland, New York, and Buffalo. I think maybe Green Bay is because it's so cold, but the wind – in those 3 stadiums, I've always heard that is a different kind of animal. I mean, I remember watching videos back in the Jim Kelly days where he would throw a ball and it would curve like 4 feet, you know.
And Kelly had a monster arm, and that's we've kind of always seen the Bills kind of go towards those strong arm guys, you know, for that reason. Probably a big played a part in them drafting Josh Allen, at least to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, I definitely think we're getting into that time of year where you have to keep an eye on the weather, and it seems to be especially bad in Cleveland at times with that wind up there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got to think though, coming down inside the 2-minute warning, no timeouts. You just say you got the Cleveland -4. No, you're not expecting to win. If the game's over, then they bust out that huge round. You're jumping up and down the living room. Then he runs out about the 3-yard line.
Yeah, man.
Sick.
Really sick. Really sick moment, man. For sure, really sick.
I just wish it happened to one of our friends, honestly, that we didn't like. That we love. Not that we don't like, Joe. That we like to pull against. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, that we like to pull against, but it happened to our buddy Brian Ray. Sad moment.
We love our boy Brian Ray, who I happen to be playing this week. Still up in the air right now as Monday Night Football goes on, so we'll see what that Chubb move did to me and Brian this week. Still yet to be determined, but still definitely sick for Brian.
Right. Do we have problems in Green Bay? They only beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20. They have a problem consistently moving the ball without Aaron Jones in the game. Number one, number two, they cannot stop the run.
It feels like they don't prioritize Aaron Jones. He was a very popular DFS play this week, which I had interest as well. Really weird DFS slate, by the way, in week 10. Just not a lot of true slam dunk kind of standout spots, which kind of left everybody scrambling. There are a couple of really strong value plays that jumped out, but they both kind of tanked. In Mike Davis and Duke Johnson. The standout plays on the slate were kind of value plays, and there weren't really a ton of spots where you wanted to pay up. But two of those spots were Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, who you expected to just absolutely roll against the Jaguars, and that really wasn't the case. Adams produced a reasonable game, scored a touchdown. I think he had 8 catches. So, I mean, he was consistent and solid, but not what we're used to seeing from him. And it's fair to say Aaron Jones disappointed. And he's just tough to trust, man, even though we know the upside's there, especially when we're talking DFS. I mean, he's a guy you always kind of have to like rostering in GPPs just because he can explode. But there's a lot of volatility, and oftentimes a really low floor that comes with Aaron Jones. So, I don't know that it's time to be worried up there because this is the NFL. Anything can happen from week to week. But I certainly don't know if Green Bay is as dominant as their record indicates, like you said, with their run defense. I do think there's some issues with that team that need to be addressed going forward for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to really pick the best team in the NFC right now. Would you say the Cardinals? You would say the Saints maybe, but, they just lost their quarterback for who knows how long. Seattle got exposed by the Rams.
How fun are the Cardinals, by the way? The Cardinals and the Bills. How fun are those teams?
Yeah, I don't think nobody wants to play either one of those teams. All I'm saying is the 4 best teams in the NFL to me are on the AFC. All right.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I'm assuming you're talking Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Who else you throwing in there?
I'm actually willing to throw Buffalo and Tennessee in there when it comes playoff time.
Yeah.
And the only reason we'll touch on Tennessee after they just got destroyed by the Indianapolis Colts in the second half, 34-17. But my opinion is those are the 4 best teams in football. And Pittsburgh, Kansas City, man, I wish we could get that Super Bowl. That would be, you've got
AFC Championship game or something.
You're going to get that. Yeah, you're going to get that. But, can you imagine how good that game's going to be? Because neither one of those quarterbacks is going to let their team lose. That's what I mean by that. Those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, I think, going away. Let's talk about some bad teams. NFC East is definitely wide open, waiting for somebody to get to 5 wins. Somebody gets to 5 wins, that division's locked up.
The Giants are on a roll, man.
Yeah. Danny Dimes, baby. Danny Dimes.
They've won 2 in a row, and at 3-7, they almost seem like the favorites to win that division all of a sudden, which is sick to say. But
they're still a game behind Philly. The Philly's 3-5-1. Dallas, who knows? Is that high school quarterback going to be the real deal from now on? Are they going to get fired up and play football, or who knows? A A game
So tough to peg that division.
Yeah, a game I definitely want to touch on. Patricia was almost fired yesterday, up 24-6, I think. 24-3. I can't remember.
24-3, I believe.
Up 24-3.
Yeah,
Alex Jones.
our buddy Mape was keeping a close eye on that one.
Okay. Let Alex Smith literally come out of ICU and destroy them in the fourth quarter. Threw for 390 yards on that freaking JV defense Detroit trots out there. And then Matt Prater has the nerve to come out and make a 59-yarder to save
The bailout. The bailout to buy Patricia another week.
I mean, if that happened, I mean, we're still having trouble getting over the Arizona game last year, week 1, where they were up 23-6 and tied. This year, they were up by 3 touchdowns against the Chicago Bears in week 1. I mean, I know they're not. They're obviously offensively a different team without Galladay out there. I understand that, but how do you have a 3-touchdown lead and lose? I mean, I don't know, but DeAndre Swift looks pretty dang good as a running back in the NFL. And if you had we got Beast or Adrian Peterson laying the hammer. I mean, that's a pretty good combo. They got a really good team on paper. We say this every week. Golly, their defense is awful.
Well, it only took Matt Patricia until week 10 to figure out that he probably needs to start DeAndre Swift. So I guess that's
the best athlete on the team should start now.
I mean, I guess that's better than it taking until week 12, but. Yeah, man, he's just really slow on the upswing, I guess. But like you said, that defense is horrible. A fairly explosive offense. I feel like anytime you got Matt Stafford in there, you got a chance to score points. And they've got some solid pieces around them. So, that defense just continues to struggle.
It's pretty bad whenever you run off 2 Pro Bowlers in your second year, personally. I mean, they ran off arguably the best safety in the league and maybe 3rd best cornerback in the league last year. The cornerback was only 2 years in. So he's still under rookie contract, by the way, Joe, at the time. So let's move on. Colts, Titans. Interesting deal. DraftKings, FanDuel, and MGM came to Tennessee last week, and one of their sign-up bonuses was plus 250 that Derrick Henry gets 6 yards in the first quarter yesterday against the Colts. I mean, that's a lock, right? I mean, he usually has about 20 yards rushing a quarter. 36 seconds to go in the first quarter, Joe. Derrick Henry had -1 yards. They give him the ball. He gets 8 yards on the first down. He has 7. Tennessee people win that bet, but holy cow.
He got there. He got there.
Cow. Yeah. But no, Titans were actually in command of this game, controlling the ball. I really don't know what happened.
And I was going to say that was the Thursday night game, and I watched the first half. Fell asleep at halftime, but I watched the first half, and like I said, fell asleep at halftime. And when I woke up Friday morning and checked my phone and saw that score, I was absolutely shocked because the Titans seemed to be in control of that game. So I'm not really sure what happened. I think the Colts tightened up some spots on defense, probably really zeroed in on Henry. And Ryan Tannehill, he hadn't looked as good the last 3 weeks. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say the last 3 weeks. These teams are almost forcing him to beat them. And while he looked good doing that initially this year, has not looked as good as of late.
Yeah, here's my theory on the Titans. I don't necessarily think it's Tannehill's fault. I don't necessarily think it's the defense is forcing him to win the game. My thought is that we have our game plan for the regular season, the Tennessee Titans. We have our game plan in the playoffs. Our game plan in the regular season is an adjusted version of what our actual game plan is to win. And that is, if this team wants to be successful, we're going to wear teams down, hand the ball off 40 to 45 times a game, just like last year. Right now, they're not doing that because they want to save some legs. I think they're good enough to beat teams, in theory, playing the way they're playing now. And I just think the Colts got the best of them this week. So that's my theory on the Titans. They're still going to wear teams down at the end. I mean, I know they're inside the playoff picture right now. I know they still got to play well to finish the season to make the playoffs, but that's just my theory on the Tennessee Titans. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it makes sense, man. It makes sense. The only concern is that was a huge division game, and they've now lost three of their last four. Which you can argue they've had a couple tough matchups against the Colts and the Steelers, but they also lost to the Bengals, which is kind of worrisome. Kind of gave up control of that division with that loss, I believe. So yeah, man, I think you're right. I think maybe they're built for the long haul. They're certainly looking ahead to the playoffs, but they've not secured their spot yet. And you
Right.
think that division game against the Colts is one they want to win. So still kind of surprising to see the game swing that drastically in the second half.
I agree. I do agree. It was concerning to me. I mean, I thought, like you said, it was over. Moving on, though, I didn't get to watch any of this game because the Masters was closing up, but Arizona-Buffalo was obviously a thriller. I think Buffalo had a huge lead, and Arizona closed it in, and Buffalo retook the lead, and it just must have been a great game. I didn't get to
Yeah,
watch
it was
any of it.
it was wild at the end, man. Josh Allen and Kyler Murray both made some incredible throws to Allen seemingly to win the game, and then Kyler Murray did win the game with a rolled out to his left, threw back across his body, 50-plus yards in the air to DeAndre Hopkins, who was triple covered and made the catch.
Yeah,
So it was really pretty crazy. But it just reminds you the type of talent that those two players specifically have. But, yeah, man, both those teams are jam-packed with some explosive options. When you talk about Buffalo, you got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, John Brown when he's healthy, and just a really fun and explosive offense that can also go in lulls when they're not playing well. But when they're going, they're really fun to watch. And
right.
same can be said of Arizona. Kyler Murray's just electric out there. DeAndre Hopkins is one of, if not the best receiver in the league. And you got Christian Kirk coming on. Kenyon Drake coming back, looked healthy. I think he ran for nearly or over 100 yards. So two really good football teams there that are definitely in the playoff picture.
Absolutely. Couple more games we're going to touch on before we hit out. New Orleans had a costly game, winning 27-13 over the 49ers.
Know what time it is, Andrew? You know what time it is.
Winston.
It's Jameis time, baby.
Okay,
It's
well, I was about to
Jameis
say Jameis gonna get his shot. I got a prediction here. We might see Drew Brees back for the playoffs, but he's not going to be the same player. I think Drew Brees will be in the booth next year.
It's possible. It's possible. I
Mhm.
think I don't know if he's actually came out and said it or confirmed it that he's just playing one more year, but this feels like it could very well be his last year. If he hadn't already said that, I'm not sure. But just in case you want to make a little note, Jameis is playing the Falcons next week.
That means play every player on wide receiver they got.
That means play Michael Thomas, play Alvin Kamara, play Jameis. Grab your running back with a couple Falcons, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty sure Breeze. They're saying that he's broke several ribs. Also, post-game interview they said was lackluster. Could have been that he's already been medicated, or it could have been that he's just feeling down because he knows he might have just played his last football game competitively at a high level. I don't know. But it was a vicious hit. He got slammed to the ground. I didn't think it was a bad hit at all. I just think it was vicious. New England comes back and beats the Ravens 23-17. Great coaching by Belichick. We see this every year. It starts getting cold and rainy and windy and snowy, and New England wins football games.
Yeah, we brought it up here a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about New England and how they want to win football games, and we said we're going to see a lot of 24-17s, a lot of 21-14s, and if they're playing that type of football, they've got a chance to win some games, and they beat a pretty good team, or at least a team that we expected to be really good, the Baltimore Ravens, and Man, I love the guy, and he's an electric player to watch. But you have to call Lamar Jackson a huge, both real life and fantasy disappointment this year. To this point, it just seems as though defensive coordinators have evolved with him. They're putting him in situations where he has to throw the ball down the field, and he's unable to do it when it's obvious passing situations. Just still hadn't refined that part of his game to where it needs to be yet. You got any thoughts on Lamar? Really disappointed in his performance so far this year.
There's one thing that defensive coordinators can't outrun, and that's a strong arm. They can figure out how to stop somebody that's fast and got weapons, and they can take things away. They can't take away a good arm. Lamar's arm is not great. It's not accurate. It's not strong. Kylie's a fantastic athlete, and he keeps you on your toes. But unless the ground game is really working, where they can, put 8 or 9 in the box to stop the run, and then let Lamar go loose and let him throw on the run and create space or create time to give his receivers more space and keep the defenses off balance. I feel like he's going to struggle. Maybe the Tennessee Titans rolled out the playbook last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if you give a good coach time, he's going to figure out how to stop a one-dimensional offense. And Bill Belichick, obviously one of the greatest head coaches and defensive minds ever, slowed him down. And you got to feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, teams with these adaptable coaches are certainly starting to figure out Lamar.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Moving on to week 11, games to watch. Arizona-Seattle should be a good matchup. Like Joe said, look at New Orleans. They're playing the Falcons. I would even say maybe possibly look at Carolina's playing Detroit.
That could be a really underrated spot for some fantasy scoring right there.
We don't know if Bridgewater's playing, man. He got freaking rocked in the fourth quarter too in that game. Mike Davis, who knows if he's out. Christian McCaffrey's out again. They're hurting on injuries. Baltimore, Tennessee is an important game.
Dalvin Cook gets the Cowboys this week, by the way.
Minnesota versus the Cowboys. I'm putting Minnesota over and under on their team alone about 52. Another good matchup. Revenge game here. Kansas City, Vegas. Didn't Vegas is the team that upset Kansas City? They're right.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes. Revenge game.
Yeah. One last thing to touch on. The Miami Dolphins are 6-3, and they are playing Denver in Week 11, and they are favored. I don't know that Tua is doing it by himself. I've said on here several times that Brian Flores is an excellent football coach, and that team is just really well coached all around on both sides of the ball. Yeah. And we question the decision to bring Tua in, but it's working, whether you want to chalk it all up to him or not. But Miami's 6-3 and favored in their next game.
There you go. Well, so there you have it. We gave a rundown last week, hit up next week a little bit. So we'll have a little bit more information on the NFL next week because the Masters won't be going on. Our eyes were glued to it this past week.
We're on Masters hangovers this week, guys.
Exactly. So he's Joe Nicely. I'm Andrew Putters. This is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast, Sunday Stroll Edition. Talk to you soon.